What if it rained food? What if Earth was a cube? What if we had 9 lives? What if bits could fly? It's absurd. If money grew on trees, if we didn't have knees, if we walked through life slightly magnetical, it's absurd. Absurd Hypotheticals.
Hello everybody and welcome to Absurd Hypotheticals, the show where we overthink dumb questions so you don't have to. I'm your host Marcus Lehner, and I'm joined here today by Chris Yee and Ben Storms. Say hi, guys.
Hey, I'm Chris.
Hey, I'm Ben.
Guys, this episode is very appropriate right now because I have just run out of beer. So, we have a lot to get through because our last one of these went pretty long, so I kind of want to just dive right in. What we're doing this week is we actually have 3 different questions. We have it's one of our grab bag episodes.
Your second grab bag episode.
Our second grab bag episode ever.
Our last one was the Valentine's Day one. If you haven't listened to that one, go back and listen to that one.
This episode is we're each going to answer a different question about a boozy hypothetical. And I'm going to start with mine because I think mine is the dumbest question. So we can wipe that one off. Right off the bat.
You wanted to make this a main question, and we were like, no, it's not going to be a main question.
I don't know why. Like, going through it, I could have easily done all 3 answers myself. It could have just been my solo episode. But anyway, without further ado, my question that I covered was, what if Lake Champlain were full of champagne? So, first thing I had to answer for myself here was, how big is Lake Champlain, actually? Also, where is Lake Champlain? Also, literally anything about it except that it's famous and kind of sounds like champagne.
I don't know anything about Lake Champlain at all.
Yeah, so good news for our podcast. It's big. It's the 13th largest lake in the U.S. It stretches for 107 miles and is 14 miles long at its widest point. It's located mostly between northern New York and Vermont, but it does stretch a ways up into Canada as well. Pretty big lake. Its maximum depth is about 400 feet, with an average depth of 64 feet, and a total volume of about 6.2 cubic miles of water. So what if this was all champagne instead of water?
That's a lot of champagne.
Yeah. So first thing I've written here is the effect on wildlife. And there's no real use beating around the bush here. Everything in the lake is very, very, very dead.
Is it at least very, very drunk first, or is it just immediately dead?
Basically just dead. There is actually one animal that might survive for a bit. And that of all things is the goldfish. So goldfish are actually unique among fish in that they can survive for extended periods without oxygen. They have to do this naturally when lakes freeze over and the oxygen level in the water, kind of drops down. And so they'll have this kind of no oxygen atmosphere that they'll survive for, low oxygen atmosphere, not zero oxygen, but they'll survive for up to 5 months until the lake thaws out again in the next season. And so kind of what they do is typically when we're oxygen deprived and we try to convert carbohydrates into energy, our bodies or animals' bodies produce lactic acid, which is not good. It's very toxic and it would kill the goldfish. But when they're in these low oxygen conditions, they actually switch the protein they use. And instead of converting into lactic acid, they convert the carbohydrates. The byproduct instead becomes alcohol. So basically, during the winter under a frozen lake, a goldfish is slowly getting itself more and more drunk while it emits alcohol into the water.
So it's kind of like me over the winter?
Yeah, if you could emit alcohol out of your gills.
Oh, yeah, I can't do that.
I think my favorite stat here, and God knows if this is any way verifiable, but according to the BBC News article I read, Dr. Berenbrink estimates that if you left a goldfish in a glass of water and sealed it, you'd have a 4% alcoholic beverage after 200 days.
You want to try this now?
Yeah, I know. I'm like, wait, why is nobody making this?
I feel like the goldfish would die, right?
Yeah, there's one problem. Actually, I had done a science experiment back in early high school or late elementary school, some in the, very science fair is...
Not middle school, though.
In the science fair scene where, people are still making, paper mache volcanoes. And I was like, oh, my project was, can fish survive in different kinds of water? And so I put a fish in tap water, I put a fish in salt water, and I put a fish in carbonated mineral water.
Did the teachers not stop you from doing this?
I didn't kill any fish that didn't just happen to die naturally like a week or two later because I didn't really take care of them.
Sure.
I got a C, so I wasn't really encouraged by my scientific
That's
study.
your problem. They're freshwater fish.
But not the oxygen deprivation or the water being toxic is not going to be what kills the goldfish. It's going to be that the bubbles will push the fish to the top of the water, and then they kind of just get stuck up there, which is not great for them. So really, the goldfish are not going to survive. I just wanted to share that goldfish fact. But everything in the lake is dead. That's the obvious one. But it's not just the wildlife in the lake we need to be careful of. It's also everything around the lake, because Champlain has bubbles. So the bubbles in soda and alcoholic drinks are made up of carbon dioxide that is dissolved in the liquid. And generally, you have a can of soda, the way it works is the pressure inside the can keeps the CO2 dissolved, and when you pop open the can, you get that crisp pop, and all the bubbles start escaping from the liquid. When we convert our Lake Champlain into champagne, it's more or less like opening a giant can of soda. So in your typical glass of champagne, 20% of the CO2 is released as bubbles, and 80% is released through diffusion, which is basically the same thing as bubbles, except it's at like a microscopic scale. So it kind of just like leaks out of the surface in an invisible gas, and 20% is caught in the bubbles. It was tough to find a real figure on how long exactly it takes for a champagne glass to go completely flat, as in all the CO2 is emitted. But about 3 hours seems to be a fair consensus between the different sources I was looking at. But that's not to say our champagne lake will release all its carbonation in just those 3 hours. It won't be flat in 3 hours. So going back to our soda can, the reason it stays fizzy, after being on the shelf for weeks is because it's pressurized. So a typical can of soda has an inside pressure of about 20 to 30 psi, which is a bit slightly more than the atmospheric pressure of 14.7. So when you open it up, that 5 to 10 psi of difference is the released bubbles. A champagne bottle, though, is not 20 to 30. A typical champagne bottle is around 70 to 90 psi, which is actually like more than twice the pressure of your car tires. Like, there's a lot of pressure in a champagne bottle. I mean, yes, obviously, the cork pops out and makes the whole big thing, but actually looking at the numbers, I'm like, that's a lot of pressure. So the water pressure as you go down is going to mimic the pressure in a bottle or a can of soda. So for every foot you go down in water, your pressure is going to increase by about half a psi. So you need a depth of about 180 feet to hit the same level of pressure that a champagne bottle is going to be in. So basically that gives us our baseline at 100 feet below the surface. There's enough pressure that the bubbles stay dissolved in the water. And then at the surface, where it's atmospheric pressure, of course, it's all going to bubble up and escape. So given that our lake is an average depth of 64 feet compared to that 180, we're going to have a lot of CO2 escape kind of right away. And while it's not all of it in those first 3 hours I was talking about, approximately 83% of the CO2 is going to escape into the air, which is not great. There's approximately 10 grams of CO2 per liter of champagne. And since there are 26 trillion liters of champagne in our lake, we'll be releasing 215 billion kilograms of CO2 in our atmosphere, or for us Americans, 236 million tons of CO2.
That seems like a lot. Just personally, that feels like a lot.
Yeah, so basically, once the CO2 comes out, it's going to spread out to standard atmospheric pressure, because it's tight and caught in pressurized bubbles under the water. But once it is out in the air, it's kind of spreads out a little bit. So I don't have any good math on how tall the CO2 layer would be, because it's heavy. So CO2 is heavier than air, which is bad for us, because it means it's going to sit on the ground where it will suffocate us. Very bad. So I said, if it's 100 feet tall, which I think is an overestimation in my mind's eye, say it's 100 feet tall, it would cover an area of 1,290 square miles in pure CO2. For reference, Rhode Island is only 1,000 square miles in area. So even though Rhode Island's a small thing, it is still a state. So an area greater than Rhode Island is going to be covered completely in CO2, and all the animals and plants and everything in here are going to die. Not great for them. So locally, bad news. I did look quickly at global warming, because we're now putting, again, 236 million tons of CO2 into the air. it actually increases our CO2 in the atmosphere by less than a percentage point. So it's not great, but it's not going to kill us that way, right away. And in the long term, after, a couple days actually, the lake's going to be mostly flat and not really produce these huge amounts of CO2 anymore. Some not fun stuff that happens to the lake is that it will go sour, because champagne does actually go bad over time. And basically the mechanism behind the way that this happens is that alcohol kills most bacteria that would try to live in it, but some of them do actually thrive in the kind of this mid-alcoholic, high-sugar environment. And the one that's most common is Acetobacter, which will turn alcohol into vinegar. So from Lake Champlain, I think we could rename it to Lake Vinaigrette. I'm going to take that joke out. That's terrible. Chris, cut that out.
I'm not
Lake
going
Vinaigrette.
to.
Please cut that. I
Nope,
hate it.
all
No.
this stays in.
I
every
wrote it and I
bit.
hate
You
it.
have no control over this.
Bad for everyone. A lot of people local die, but I do have a section labeled good news.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, there's good
By
news.
definition.
So sometimes people will smell a strong drink and be like, man, I'm getting drunk just on the fumes of this drink. So I was wondering, does that actually happen? Is that a real thing that can happen? And it turns out there was actually a trend of people who were, they would like steam their alcohol. So they put it like on a hot plate and try to inhale the vapors to get drunk. And actually that works. So if alcohol is, evaporated into the air and you inhale it, it goes right through your mucous membrane in your nose and goes right to your brain. So you actually get drunk very quickly and very effectively. It's not great for you because it goes in your lungs, which is not ideal for, alcohol. Like, it can go in your stomach. Lungs is a worse organ to have alcohol in. And it does need to be very hot for alcohol to evaporate. But that's not the only way alcohol gets in the air. The good news is just outside this radius of the death zone of CO2, you can go to the Ausable River, I'm going to call it, the Ausable River downstream. And what's nice about this area is that there's actually a lot of beautiful waterfalls that make up this river. And where the water comes over and splashes onto the rocks below, it forms that really nice waterfall mist. So what you can do is get the heck out of Lake Champlain, drive a few miles, go to the Ausable River, lay down by the shore, and kind of just soak up the mists and get drunk while watching a beautiful waterfall. And that, friends, is what happens when you turn Lake Champlain into Lake Vinaigrette. I'm doubling down. I'm committed to it now.
I thought you were going to move away from it and I was going to mention it again, but you owned it.
It's mine now.
Well, now I'm going to take it out.
All right. Chris, what was your question? What did you cover?
So my boozy question this week was, what if you were always drunk?
Nothing would change.
So first I wanted to see what actually makes you drunk when you drink alcohol. Why do you become drunk? And the type of alcohol that gets you drunk is ethanol. And ethanol is water soluble and fat soluble. So it's easily absorbed into the bloodstream. And blood takes the alcohol or the ethanol into your brain. And when it gets to your brain, the ethanol molecules, they attach to your glutamate receptors. And normally these receptors, they're meant to receive other chemical signals, but the ethanol blocks them, and that slows down your brain. And the ethanol also binds to your gamma-aminobutyric acid receptors, a different
Oh
kind
man,
of
not my
receptor.
gamma-aminobutyric receptors.
Also called GABA. I'm going to call it GABA from now on. GABA. And ethanol actually enhances the GABA receptors, but the purpose of the GABA receptors is the purpose of GABA, it sounds weird when I just say GABA, but
Not great.
it helps you feel relaxed and lowers your anxiety and stress. So the fact that it's enhancing your GABA receptors means that it's also slowing down your brain even more.
Do you think that's why they call that show Yo Gabba Gabba?
Almost certainly not.
Sure.
There was a kid show by that name. I think they lived on an island and they were monsters, or were they just dudes in Hawaiian shirts?
Literally no idea.
I don't know. I know it exists, but I have literally no other context about it other than that.
Yeah, I know the name and that's it.
By the way, none of the things I guessed were correct about the show.
Were you thinking about Goa Goa Island?
Yes, that's what I was thinking.
I was
Okay.
pretty sure Yo Gabba Gabba was like they're in like Barney style suits, right?
Yeah, they are. You're correct. There's a robot and a green one and a red one.
There's a robot.
A yellow robot. There's a pink bulbous flowery thing. Short green monster. Tall red monster.
Now I'm Googling this. Oh, that's pretty accurate, actually.
Of course it's accurate. I'm looking at a photo.
I don't know. I just expected there to be more like characteristics, but there's also a trash can. Wait, what?
He just decided to lie to us for some reason. So, where was I? What was I talking about?
We're talking about
We're talking about
GABA.
Yo Gabba Gabba.
GABA. Okay, yeah, GABA. So it makes GABA more effective, and that like also slows down your brain, and it also causes your brain to release dopamine and endorphins, which is why people enjoy drinking. It makes them feel good when they drink. It does a lot of things to the brain. It also increases the norepinephrine in your brain, which is a stimulant, which is kind of counterintuitive to that whole alcohol thing and slowing down your brain. But it's a stimulant that increases arousal and excitement, and it makes you more impulsive. So you make you don't really think about your decisions, you just do stuff. Now, in our hypothetical, I'm basically saying that we have a constant source of ethanol in our bloodstream that's like constantly feeding to our brain. So how drunk am I considering drunk for this question? The federal legal limit is 0.08% blood alcohol content, and it's true for most states too, so I'm going to go with that. And that the equivalent of that is about 5 drinks over 2 hours for men, or 4 drinks over 2 hours for women.
Can I make a point here and just say that the legal limit is like kind of high?
Yeah, it is pretty high.
It is pretty high.
I remember we were at Ben, I think you might have been there. We're up at the Cape House.
Yep.
And it was like one of our friends had a breathalyzer, so we all drank a bunch. We're like, oh yeah, let's see what we're at. And I was like, I feel real drunk right now, and I blew like a .079. I'm like, I should not be allowed to drive, like absolutely not be allowed to drive.
Yeah, there is so the zero tolerance for like if you're under 21, I think in your driving, then 0.02 is the zero tolerance limit.
That feels like it still is some tolerance,
Yeah.
but
I don't know why it's not just like literally zero. I don't know why.
Well, because the test, I think the test can have false positives up to a percentage.
Okay, yeah.
And you could like, not that you should be doing it at 21, but you could have like drank the night before and like, the next day in the morning when you're, fine again.
Right.
It could be like lingering at 0.01 or something.
Yeah. So if I'm drunk, I'm obviously gonna I need to make decisions in my life, and I want to see if I'm gonna make good decisions or bad decisions. You probably already know the answer, but I found a scientific study to back it up. So there's a study called Decision Making and Binge Drinking, and in this study they split up 200 students into 4 different groups based on their frequency of how much they drank. And they had them do what's called an Iowa gambling task, which is basically, so they have you choose cards from 4 different decks. And when you choose a card, you're either rewarded money or they take money away from you, or like a combination of both of them at the same time. And to the subject, it looks like this is just like random, like all the decks are random and no real correlation. But in reality, it's more weighted towards one deck. And the test is to figure out how long it takes for the subject to figure out that one of the decks is better than the others. And the result of the test is that more drinking is bad.
Also, was this maybe instead of supposed to be a real scientific study, was trying to sort the students into who the coolest ones were?
right, it was actually just like the nerds trying to figure out where to go, get into parties.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh yeah, we'll sort you by how much you drink and how good you are at gambling at cool games. It's like, okay, so the person who wins this, the drunkest, is the coolest kid on campus. Like, you could just assign a cool factor to each of these students.
I mean, that's the second part of the result, I guess. You should write another paper.
No, I shouldn't. Absurd Hypotheticals does not endorse the idea that drinking makes you cool, even though it does.
So I'm like, okay, so drinking makes you make bad decisions. That's a negative part of drinking, obviously. So next, I moved on to, Well, so now it's saying that one of the bad decisions that you make might be related to food because, like, I know that whenever I drink, I usually eat more than I usually do. So I wanted to see if this is, like, actually a thing or if this is just, like, me. And there's another study that looked at mice that were on ethanol, and they found that mice that were influenced by ethanol, their food intake was increased by 15 to 20%. So if I'm always drunk, I'm going to be eating like 20% more than I normally do, and I'm going to have a weight gain issue. Not going to be good, also a negative. So I'm like, okay, I'm making bad decisions, and I'm going to be fat, but maybe I can like find something good about this. Like alcohol's a depressant, so maybe I can just like sleep all day. I like sleep. I like just lying around doing nothing.
I like that your possible upside is maybe I'll just sleep all the time.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll just sleep my life away.
But the thing is, when you're drunk and you sleep, you don't get REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep, or you don't get as much as you normally do. And if you don't know what REM sleep is the part of sleep where you dream, and it's like your brain sorts stuff out while you're in REM sleep. And if you're deprived of REM sleep, then you get anxiety, irritability, and you can see hallucinations that, like, if it gets really bad.
So there's your positive right there.
Yeah. And they actually saw that mice that were deprived of REM sleep, not like sleep in general, because they still got sleep, just REM sleep, they died within 4 to 6 weeks. So that's also not great. They did live longer than when they were totally sleep deprived, but they still died pretty quickly.
God, we do such bullshit to mice in the name of science.
Yeah,
like
we do.
Could you? I mean, I'm sure it exists in a dozen different forms already. But like, if you wrote like a fictional book about like the rats being conscious enough to get together and really realize what's happening to them, and then you like imagine that was us, and like some higher being was doing that to us. It's like, ugh. Like just inject these 100 people with cancer, and watch the growth form, and then just keep track of how long it takes them to die, and just knock it down on a spreadsheet.
We got real here on Absurd Hypotheticals today. Welcome to Real Realities, our new podcast where we talk about the real shit in life.
Real realities. So yeah, if I'm drunk all the time, I'm probably not going to live that long. I don't know how much it'll reduce my life, but it will reduce my lifespan. So obviously that's another negative. My sleep plan didn't really work out. And then in addition to like the sleep health problems, there are like a ton of other health problems that happen if you're always drunk, obviously. Like you have liver problems, pancreas problems, kidney problems, stomach problems, cardiovascular problems. I was looking up all these problems, and like I started getting into like alcohol abuse like websites. I got like really depressed about it. I was like, I don't want to go down this route anymore.
You're like, man, I need a drink.
Wait a minute.
Obviously, drinking like every day is bad, and being drunk all the time is bad. But I wanted to try to maybe focus on positives a little bit. So I started looking up like good ideas.
I thought you were like summarizing your answer. Like I thought I covered the positives. I'm like, did you? That one little bit about saying you could sleep better, maybe, but it's worse.
Well, I mean, I'm not gonna I don't have that much good stuff. But I have some good stuff. So I looked up good ideas that people have had while they're drunk. I found 2 examples.
That's the only 2 in the whole internet of good ideas I had while I was drunk.
Yeah, for the like number of times people are drunk, only get 2 good ideas out of it is not a great rate.
Yeah. I mean, these 2 things are both pretty good, though. So the first one is the band Iron Butterfly. So they wrote Inagata Devita.
Oh, yeah, that song.
The singer of the band, Doug Ingle, he's the one that wrote the song. And he actually wrote it after drinking an entire gallon of Red Mountain wine. So he was obviously pretty drunk. And he wanted to tell like the drummer in the band that he had written a song, and he wanted to tell him about the song. So he tried to sing it for him, and the actual lyric is supposed to be in the Garden of Eden, but he was too drunk, and he was slurring his speech, and it came out Inagata Devita.
That's awesome.
It's amazing.
And they just left that as the lyric, and then they released it, and it became like a huge hit. It was like a best-selling album. So that's good idea number one.
Could you imagine, like, because, yeah, it's a fun fact, but that is like your, I assume, slightly shameful drunk moment. Like, even though it all worked out great, and maybe it was a good song and a good idea and all that, but, like, you have to sing that song, like, for the rest of your life.
Right, yeah.
Like, all the time. And every time you say In a Grata Vita, you know that what you meant was in the Garden of Eden. Do you think he sings it that way sometimes?
He just sneaks in the Garden of Eden.
Just sneaks it in, just like sings it and just like keeps going.
This is the one song that I know from them. I don't know if they have other songs. They probably do that I know.
I'd imagine they do.
They do.
I mean, other songs that I know.
Oh, probably not. No.
So that was number one. Number two is actually the Boston Tea Party. So we are from Boston. We know about the Boston Tea Party. But if you don't, it was when they threw a bunch of shipments of tea into the Boston Harbor because they're being unfairly taxed for the tea. So they did that. But when they did that, like before they had done that, they actually met at Benjamin Eads' house for like a meeting. And at that meeting, they had a bowl of punch that was alcoholic in it. And Benjamin Eads' son, Peter, he recalls that his job was to make sure that that bowl never went empty. So they just got like really, really drunk before this. Some of them had to like stop what they were doing while they were throwing tea in the harbor because they were too drunk. And a typical recipe for punch around this time period was sugar, spice,
and everything nice. These were the ingredients for 3 perfect little girls.
Yes. Lime, lemons, oranges, and rum. So that was like a normal punch. But then I also found a recipe for Benjamin Franklin's milk punch. Apparently he has a milk punch.
That's a better band name.
It is. Can I also back us up for just a second?
Yeah.
So this song was written, In a Grata Vita was written while he was drunk, right? That's the idea?
Yes.
Do you know how long this song is?
17 minutes.
17 minutes.
What?
Yeah. Honestly, it's just like a normal song in the beginning, and then the last like 14 minutes is just them playing instruments.
Yeah. I'm also going to say that on Spotify, their next 3 more popular songs are Unconscious Power, Get Out of My Life, Woman, and Most Anything You Want. So I'm going to say no, you do not know any other songs by them.
That is the most like disjointed series of song names that I've ever heard.
Yeah. Their first 2 songs are In a Grata Vita single version and the 2006 remaster full length of In a Grata Vita.
Did they? I guess they probably had a radio version.
I assume they must have.
That was like much shorter.
Yeah.
But anyway, Ben Franklin's Milk Punch. So I found apparently there's like he wrote a recipe and he like sent it to James Bowden, and they like have this recipe letter from him. It's like saved somewhere, but it sounds, I don't know, maybe it's good. It sounds pretty gross to me, but it's brandy, lemons, lemon juice. I don't know why they split lemons and lemon juice into 2 separate things, and then spring water, nutmeg, sugar, and milk.
That sounds,
Yeah.
I was going to say that sounds terrible, but
One more time?
So it's brandy, lemons, lemon juice, spring water, nutmeg, sugar, milk.
so the lemons are throwing me a little bit.
Yeah, because if it doesn't have the lemons, then it's kind of like
Eggnog, but without eggs.
eggnog-ish. Yeah.
Right. But the lemons are throwing me a little bit.
I think it's gonna be primarily lemon flavor for that to be good.
Really?
See, I was going to go a different direction with my thoughts. I kind of want to minimize that lemon.
Yeah, I'd minimize lemon. I'm not a huge lemon fan though, so.
I picture it's a lemonade where you just kind of cut the sour lemon with a bit of brandy and a little bit of milk, and the sugar sweetens it a little bit.
You do either have to go lemon heavy or no lemon at all, because you can't have middle ground lemon with milk. It doesn't mix.
Is there a risk of just like the thing immediately curdling when you put lemon and milk together?
Yeah, I feel like the lemon juice would curdle the milk.
Which must mean it must be a small amount of lemon.
Yeah.
Right? Because yes, otherwise I feel like it would curdle.
I don't know. But Benjamin Franklin's just a smart guy, so he knows what he's doing.
Should we make this recipe?
We should not.
3 different ways.
I guess we're debating on how much lemon there is. I do have the recipe. I could just look at it, I guess.
You could have saved us a lot of time here, Chris.
Okay, so he had 11 lemons. Whoa.
That's a lot of lemons.
2 cups of lemon juice. And the ratio to milk was there are 3 cups of milk.
Oh, God.
That's the worst
Pretty even
ratio.
ratio there.
Oh, no.
2 cups of lemon
How
juice
much-
is so many.
How much brandy?
6 cups of brandy.
What?
I mean,
It's half brandy.
yeah.
Man,
So like they're strong
Ben
stuff.
Franklin got fucked up.
Yeah. So that's like, I think that's pretty typical of the punch at that time. So the punch that they had for the Boston Tea Party was pretty strong, I guess.
This explains a lot.
6 cups of brandy. That's more than the cups of the other stuff combined.
Yeah. But anyway, that was good idea number 2. So if I'm drunk all the time, I'm going to have all these issues. I'm going to probably die early, but I might get lucky. I might win. I might write like an award-winning song, or I might start a revolution. You don't know. So yeah, that's, I guess, what I would do. Ben.
So my question was, what if all liquids came from a tap? So my first question was, what actually is a tap, like, by definition? Because that's going to make this a lot easier or a lot harder. And according to Merriam-Webster, a tap is just basically a device that has a spout and a valve attached to the end of a pipe to control the flow of a liquid. I'm not going to lie, this covers, like, almost everything already. Like, a faucet is a tap. Why we call it tap water. Like, a gas pump is technically a tap. An IV bag is a tap. Like, pretty much anything that involves dispensing liquid is already a tap.
A teapot.
Okay, fine. I guess that's not a tap. Oh, well, you could argue that, like, a little curry thing is a... Okay, anyway, point being, if you say that it has to be, like, a water cooler type tap at least, you just wind up with, like, a storage-based problem. That's kind of boring. So we're going to take this question a little bit further. So I'm going to change it to, what if all liquids were on tap? I.e., what if all liquids only came in kegs?
It's like a bar tap.
Exactly, yeah. So what is a keg exactly? It's a steel barrel, I guess usually steel, not always necessarily steel, used to store liquid, generally beer. The kind of way it works is that inside this barrel, there's a tube that goes from the bottom of it to the top of it, called the spear. There's a hole at the top that the liquid comes out of. And there's also another opening in the top of the barrel that lets you force gas into it to increase the pressure. So when you open the hole at the top of the spear, liquid comes out. So for like a keg that you've used at like a party, there's like a pump on it. That's called a party pump, appropriately. And it just pumps in air from outside that raises enough pressure and it pushes the beer out. Easy enough. This isn't ideal for long term because it introduces bacteria, which is gross, and oxygen, which will oxidize the beer over time, which will make it taste worse. So a keg that uses like the party pump like this is only good for about a day. Longer term, so like at a bar or something, they'll usually use a blend of carbon dioxide and nitrogen instead, because that way you don't have that oxidation problem. They add nitrogen instead of just using straight CO2, because if you use just CO2, it'll basically condense down into the beer and overcarbonate it, which is bad. That's kind of what we're working with here, is everything has to come in kegs. That does not mean it has to be carbonated. I wasn't sure about that at first. You can have non-carbonated beverages in kegs. But
That's helpful for
yes,
like
a lot of
milk.
things. Yeah.
Didn't we talk about carbonated milk before?
I think we did, unfortunately. I'm not
Point,
sure.
I feel
but
like we did.
I feel like we did.
I definitely watched a video of someone trying to carbonate milk, one of those soda streams.
Oh, no.
Oh yeah, I've seen a video of that too.
That sounds so
It was
disgusting.
the best video because it was like both very like climactic and anticlimactic at the same time, where like it just completely froths over and like starts spilling everywhere, and he's just like, "Oh God, no! Oh no! This was terrible! Oh!" And he's just like very slowly wiping it up with paper towels, just like, "Oh man! Oh no! Oh man! Freaking milk! Oh no! Why did I do this?" Just like so much regret.
So,
Sorry, continue.
Yes, yeah. So I guess the first question is, how big are kegs? So fortunately, there are many different sizes of kegs. The smallest ones are called mini kegs or bubbas, and those are like 1 1/3 gallons. The biggest ones, or not like the biggest ones necessarily, but the biggest ones that are used sort of generally are what's called a half barrel or full keg. That's 15.5 gallons. So obviously we have some smaller storage space than we have in a lot of current liquid storage. So my first question was really, can we still transport liquids the way we currently do? because I make every problem into a logistics problem, apparently. I'm just now realizing I'm a parody of myself. So right now we move liquids in like those big tank trucks, you know the ones that are like the big cylindrical truck with liquid in it, right? And those carry 5,500 to 11,600 gallons based on like the actual, like shape of the truck. So if we were going to use those full kegs that are 15.5 gallons, that's going to be anywhere from 355 kegs to 749. So now my question is, if we're not going to have a big truck like that anymore because everything has to be in kegs, how many kegs can we fit in a semi-truck? Because that's going to be the easiest replacement. So one of those full kegs has a diameter of 16 inches or so and a height of a little over 23 inches. So we're going to say it's just like a rectangular box for simplicity and say that it's, just 16 by 16 by 23, which gives us a volume of about 3.5 feet. A 48-foot trailer, which is sort of a standard size, like semi-truck trailer, has a volume, like a usable volume of about 3,000 cubic feet, which could fit 857 kicks, which is more than we need. So that's good. It's promising. The one thing to take into account as well is that kegs weigh quite a bit, actually. Just an empty keg will weigh like 30 to 40 pounds. A full keg will weigh like, the lower end was like 140 is what I was seeing.
Yeah, they're heavy.
So that 355 to 749 kegs is going to be 49,700 to 140,000 pounds. And the max weight on one of those trailers is only 45,000. Which is 321 kegs, which is about 5,000 gallons, which is close. So it actually worked out better than I expected. Like, I expected we'd only be able to do like, some small fraction of the liquid movement we do now, but actually we get pretty close. So that one worked out much better than I expected. So we wouldn't have at least like any big logistical problem with not being able to move liquids around anymore.
Aren't you so sad, Ben? You don't have logistical problems to solve.
I mean, yeah, I'm a little disappointed, but there's other things we can think about. Specifically, I want to look at just some like, specific liquids and ways we use them. So going back to our previous point, milk. How is just like buying milk if you buy it in a keg? So once again, there's a mini keg that's 1.32 gallons, which is, a little bit bigger than a regular gallon of milk, but that's reasonable. I could drink that amount of milk before it goes bad. I did want to ask though, because I don't want to ideally have to like use a CO2 canister to get my milk out in the morning. Can you just use like a party pump to get milk out? Is like having that air in there going to make the milk go bad? I didn't know that. And the only source I could find was Quora, which is not ideal, but I like to point out the people who responded to the question. One of them is a doctorate in medicine and healthcare at a university in Cyprus. And the other one is epidemiologist and professor at a school in Toronto. So they're at least, assuming they're not lying, somewhat knowledgeable about the subject.
It's very possible.
It's very possible that one of them is not lying. It is the internet, so they're probably both lying. But they at least say that a carton of milk left open in the fridge will not spoil faster than one that is closed. That's not exactly the same as our question we have here, but it's close. And I'm going to count it that we could buy milk in kegs. Just give me this one.
I'm not going to fight you on whether milk's going to spoil slightly faster, Ben. I'm going to let you have it.
I appreciate this. The next question I had was IVs. Is it bad to pump stuff faster out of an IV into a patient? Because I felt like that was probably a bad thing. But it turns out they actually kind of do this. So there's something they call a pressure bag, which is basically it's like a second bag that goes around the IV that they then pressurize to pump liquid out of it faster. That they use when there's like someone who's critically ill or injured and they need like rapid blood replenishment or like rapid fluids or something. And apparently it just is something they do normally. So I guess you could just use a keg for IVs too, apparently. I really didn't expect that one to work.
I love how medicine goes from just like extremely high tech to extremely low tech, like in like half a second, where it's just like, oh, all these crazy mechanisms and devices. But then also like when we put things in your body, we just fucking do the equivalent of putting a keg on.
Yeah, we put a bag around it and squeeze real hard and hope it works. Like,
you're made of tubes. This is a tube.
Yeah.
tape it together.
I did
Call
like,
it a
there was a
day.
line I think I was reading where I was like, it said, the pressure can burst the IV bag. And I was like, okay, consequences. And then it just said, in this rare event, no harm is caused to the patient. And I was like, oh, well, okay. So, all right.
Wait, was there just a button called consequences?
Oh, God, I wish so.
That's what I need for all my research. I just like
Consequences,
what,
slam.
what are the consequences of messing with this? And I just click something and it just tells me the consequences
Right.
of fucking with it.
If only. I was really sad, by the way. I Googled literally, can you fill a keg with blood? And no answers came up. So I couldn't.
That's impossible.
Well, okay, so the problem is, there's a thing you do with a keg where you bleed air out of it. And for whatever reason, reasonably, Google assumed that's what I was talking about. So
Because
I
they didn't assume
couldn't-
you were a serial killer.
Yeah, right, exactly. I'm definitely on like a watch list now, once again.
Google wants to autocomplete my "Can you fill a keg with blood?" with "Can you fill a keg with blood clot in your leg?" Oh, wait, is that a song?
Maybe. Check it. Let me know.
I clicked it, but the first result is blood clot, signs of deep vein thrombosis, and pulmonary.
I think I saw that same. Yeah, there's not too many things to get up when you look for kegs and bleeding and... Wait, hold on. Oh, that's actually a result. Damn it.
Hold on. I just found what I needed.
Someone was talking about filling a keg with cow's blood, but it was entirely hypothetical.
Ah.
Well, which makes it totally inappropriate for our show.
Okay, well, you got me there. But no, it was just like he was gonna prank his roommates. This guy seems like a dick. All right, anyway. Point being, I couldn't get an answer on if it would be bad to store blood in a keg, but I can't imagine it would be good. So, just, we might have some issues there. And the last thing I wanted to look at was gasoline. And really the thing I wanted to look at was, I was trying to figure out, like, my first thought was, if you go to the gas station, like, someone's got to run outside and, like, replace the kegs, the pumps all the time. It's going to be really funny. But I realized, what if you just fueled your car with a keg? You just, like, stuck a keg in there, and then you pumped in, you had, like, a CO2 canister to, like, push it into your car, and you just replaced the whole keg when you went to the gas station. That'd be great. Be way faster. I mean, I know it's not really a problem now, like, filling up gas isn't a long process, but still, it'd be cool. I don't know. That was kind of just thought I had.
It feels like it'd be very satisfying. Just like grab the 140-pound keg of gasoline.
Well, yeah,
and
that
just-
would be okay. A little heavy.
There's the flaw.
There's
but
a small
you
flaw.
grab it and just like shunk. That sounds like it'd be good.
I'm also realizing that I'm saying this is a really cool idea, and it's just literally what you do with like a gas grill. So never mind.
Yeah, I had that picture in my mind too.
Yeah, it's just exactly that. So whatever. But yeah, I guess overall, I went through a lot of things. I tried to find things that would just straight up break, and for the most part, they don't exist. I don't know. It kind of just works. I guess a lot of things are more annoying, and some of them are a little funnier. Like if the car situation, you do actually just put a keg in your car, and there's like a 4-person team to load it in. I don't know. It's kind of funny, but overall, it kind of works. I don't know. We could just use kegs for more things. I guess it'd be really expensive because their kegs are like steel barrels.
Yeah, it's the same world, only way less efficient.
Yeah, so don't do it. That's why we don't do it, I guess. Hey, there's your answer.
Huh. Guys, guess what? Our Would You Rather question actually is related to what we were just talking about, which actually is entirely coincidental because I don't think we meant to go that long about milk.
Yeah, no, it's not
There
intentional.
should have been a milk grab bag.
There's still time.
Would you rather give 100 dogs a bath or milk 100 dairy cows?
This is, without a doubt, giving 100 dogs a bath. No question in my mind.
Tell me a little bit about why.
Nope. I state my case. No.
The defense rests.
Defense rests.
Not guilty.
Look,
The defense rests.
what I told you he's not guilty. What else do you have to know?
I didn't do it.
But no. So in my mind, giving a dog a bath, it's not easy, but it's also not like a, how do I put it? I wouldn't say it's entertaining, but it's not boring, right? Like it is something that at least the first few times is fun because you're playing with a dog, right? You're playing with dogs. Whereas milking a cow, one is a very like repetitive motion. It's kind of the same thing for a long time. And it's not particularly engaging. you kind of just do the thing for a long time. You ever milked a cow before?
I have not.
I have not.
I have briefly. I grew up in the South.
Our resident expert.
I would not say that, but it's not, one, it's not super easy, and two, it's not like super rewarding.
The cow is pretty boring too as an animal.
Right. It doesn't particularly react to you. Like, it's not, I was going to say it's not enjoying it, which just sounds weird, but like...
Well, are the dogs enjoying it? Are the dogs enjoying getting bathed?
I feel like dogs enjoy getting bathed.
As a general rule, they do not.
I mean, they don't hate. It's not like you're bathing like a cat. They're not gonna like buzzsaw you, right?
You'll get injured less just because dogs are less sharp than cats are, and they hate the water less than cats. But as a general rule, dogs do not enjoy getting bathed. Obviously, there are exceptions, but of the like 5 or 6 dogs I know enough about whether they like to get a bath or not, 5 or 6 of them do not enjoy it.
Fair. Okay. All right. Okay. Follow up. Let me ask some clarifying questions then. Do you have to dry the dog off?
Ooh, that's a big one. For the sake of this hypothetical, no, but you're doing it in your home.
Oh. Okay. Follow up question. Are you doing, but with both of these tasks, are you doing all of them back to back to back to back to back?
Yes. It's going to be all in a row.
Oh, God. Okay. All right. Quick Google. How long does it take to milk a cow?
5 to 10 minutes.
Okay, I was going to say it takes about 10 minutes to, I was going to say milk a dog, to wash a dog.
Takes a little longer than that, buddy.
Oh, Jesus. I was going to say it takes about 10 minutes to wash a dog. That feels right?
Yeah, it probably does take longer to wash a dog than it does to milk a cow.
Yeah.
I would say.
But that means, so even saying it's 5 minutes, oh God, 500 minutes is a really long time, guys.
Sorry, I was just looking at this as a dog washing guide, and one of the headers is saturate him with warm water.
That's one of the headlines?
So it's like the steps to wash a dog.
I thought you were saying that's the headline of the article.
But it's like, guide your dog into the tub, saturate him with warm water.
See, in my mind, you're doing it in like a kiddie pool outside.
That's probably more reasonable.
And then,
you usually give, if the weather's nice out, you can do it with a hose.
Yeah. Because I feel like that also speeds up the process a little bit too. And maybe it's even actually faster watching it. No, probably not. I think the time is going to be comparable, right? Because a small dog is going to be faster than a big dog.
Okay, so time is the big factor. If you milk cows, it'll take you, say it's 10 minutes, and you have to do 100 cows. That's 1,000 minutes. That's 16 hours.
That's like a full day. Yeah,
a full day. Dogs, I don't think it's faster to give a dog a bath.
See, I don't think time comes into this that much because it's only a one-time thing. It's not a recurring thing that you always have to do for your entire life. Both of them are going to be a long time.
Well, here's the thing. Would you rather have to put up with 100 cows for a whole long day or 100 dogs for a whole long day?
But I like dogs more than I like cows.
Do you like 100 dogs?
I mean, my wife would be angry with me if I said no.
So I think the personality of the dogs will be less consistent than the personality of the cows. The cow will just stand there.
That's true. Okay.
Like some dogs will like you and some dogs will be enjoyable. Some dogs won't.
You're missing the dog on dog escalation.
Can you like watch something on Netflix while you milk the cows? Or do you have to be intent on the milking of the cows?
I think after the first, not that we've ever done it before, except for your small experience, Ben, and my apologies. I feel like after you do like a 10 of them, you could probably not have to pay very much attention. Like I feel like you gotta be able to have the hang of it after 10 cows.
Well, he's asking, are you allowed to?
Yeah.
Like, are you close to a TV or something?
Yeah, I mean, you could also have a TV above the hose. You could set up a little iPad in your window or something.
Yeah, but I feel like you have to give more attention to the dogs.
Oh yeah, no, I'm still leaning towards milking cows, so I would agree with that.
So one factor I'm going to take into account is I'm doing the motion right now. And I feel like your forearms are going to get very sore very quickly.
You mean very jacked very quickly?
Well, no, you're just going to get sore first. The jack comes later. That's not a masturbation joke. I should make that clear. That's just how exercise works. Just do the stuff and then you get jacked.
I mean, you're going to get tired if you're cleaning the dogs too.
Right, but it's
move your arms and stuff.
It's an all body tired. You can use different I'm afraid that you're gonna have to take breaks to rest your arms, and it's gonna extend the length of time you're milking cows.
Well, you're not going to get tired moving your whole body and not have to take breaks?
I mean, you are, but it's not gonna, like, it's easier to rest if like
Okay.
you get what I'm saying, right? Like one
I get what you're
muscle
saying.
is getting very tired. It's very hard to continue doing a thing.
There's one last factor that makes me lean a little towards dogs, and that is, of course, the next day, what story do you have to tell? Like, both of these are going to be a long, arduous day. You're going to be sore and hurt in the morning. I think you're going to be more sore watching the dogs. I think it is just more effort overall. So you're going to be tired and achy in the morning, and someone's going to come up to you and be like, what did you do yesterday? And if your answer is, I milked 100 cows, it's going to be like, oh, okay. That sounds like it might have been boring. You're like, yeah. If your answer is, I washed 100 dogs, and someone's like, 100 dogs? Like, it was a lot of dogs. Like, what did you do with all those dogs? There's going to be stories to tell.
Mm-hmm.
They may be stories of how, your entire backyard or house and everything is destroyed by all these dogs running around. And it may be just like, they yelped so much and barked so much, I can't hear you in my left ear today. But it will be a story. The cows will not be a story.
This is very true.
But the reason it's a story is because it's a bad experience, is what you're saying.
I think it's just a more interesting experience for sort of the same reason.
I think the experience is worse, but it might be one of those times where it's like, is the day after more worth it? Like, I would have much rather have washed 100 dogs than have milked 100 cows.
Mm-hmm.
See, I have another factor leaning the other way, and that's what if you milk 100 cows, then you have milk. And then you can either drink the milk or sell the milk. It's a product. You created a product.
Boom. You can start making some Benjamin Franklin's good brandy lemon milk
Yeah.
drink.
I would argue that economically, it costs more to get someone to wash a dog than to produce a gallon of milk. So I think technically, if you're going down that route, if you're getting paid for your services.
Well, so you're saying this is your job to do this. So you're getting paid to milk the cow and you can also sell the milk, or you're getting paid to wash the dog.
I think we're off the rails here, guys. I think we're off the rails on that, trying to come up with, what's the situation of, are we getting paid for this? I think that's not in the spirit. So I'm going to truncate the conversation here and bring it to voting time. Chris, would you rather milk cows or wash dogs?
Yeah, Ben seems pretty clear what he's going to do. I still think the milk is relevant. That's like the leaning point for me, leaning me towards cows.
Ben, are you still on dogs?
I'm still team dog.
I think I'm going to say team dog,
Yes.
but I'm going to asterisk it and say it is going to be the worst experience.
But you choose
That's
the worst
I'm
experience.
in it for the story. I'm not in it because it's better. So Ben is still wrong, but I still get to be right.
So you're one of those people. You do stuff for the story.
So even though me and Ben picked the same one, he's wrong and I'm right.
I agree with this solution.
Fan-fragantastic. All right, and that brings us to the end of our episode. If you enjoy Absurd Hypotheticals and you want to help support the show, if you're getting in a few good extra listens while you're staying self-isolated at home, trying to just pass the time, this would be a great time for you guys to show your support. Go on to our Patreon, www.patreon.com/absurdhypotheticals.
I mean, we don't know if that's still going on when this comes out, right?
I have a feeling it's still going to be going on when this comes out.
It might be, yeah.
It's safe to say that there's still going to be lasting effects for a while yet.
Right.
And hey, if I'm wrong, I'm more than happy to be wrong.
Right.
But there's, in the future when this episode comes out, I believe it is still going to be at the top of many people's minds. So if you feel like this has helped you, kind of pass the time while this is happening, you can feel free to show our support. If you are supporting us now and you need to pull back because it is these trying times, you can also feel free to cancel. We don't feel pressured to give us podcast money. It is all about, do what's best for you. But in any case, either way, you can come join us again next week where we answer the following question.
A bunch of questions.
It's a lightning round.
Oh, yeah, it's not just one question. That's why I can't find it. We're doing a lightning round, episode 90.
You do that every lightning round.
Yep.
Rapid fire questions. Bzz, bzz, bzz. Gonna be sweet. Thunder crash.
You said Thunder Crash this time instead of trying to imitate one.